And yeah, Scott, if you let me know when it goes to my page, then I'll start it because it's saying it's there.
There, it looks like I can see it on your page.
Okay, fantastic. If you can go in and share for me then, Scott, if you don't mind.
Working on it. Good to go.
Hello, this is Derek L. Forward, President of the Dayton unit of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. We want to welcome all of our constituents, friends, family, to joining in this morning to watch this very favorable candidates forum. As many of you know, there are going to be 7 Dayton City Commission candidates on the ballot, and then 4 of those individuals will proceed to the general election in November. We wanted to make certain that all of the voters had an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates before early voting begins. That's the only fair way that the NAACP knew how to proceed with this candidates forum, even though it's Easter weekend. And we appreciate our candidates for taking time out of their busy schedules to participate in the forum, knowing that this is Easter weekend. Friday was yesterday. I was at a great Good Friday service up at St. Luke Missionary Baptist Church, where Reverend Bernard Allen, who serves as our religious affairs chair, had an opportunity to have a well-run program talking about the 7 days. So with that, Easter Sunday's tomorrow. I know people are going to be celebrating today, doing Easter egg hunts with kids and grandkids, but we want to make certain that you, as a registered voter in the Dayton area, had an opportunity to hear from these candidates. So I'm going to have an opportunity to allow each candidate 2 minutes to state their name and also what their platform is going into this special election, which will take place in the month of May, with early voting beginning next Tuesday, April the 6th. So let's start with Valerie Duncan. Valerie, can you state your name and why you're running for office? Why are you seeking office at Dayton City Commission? And prior to you doing that, we also have on the call with us Tom Roberts. He serves as our 2nd vice president, as well as our political action chair. He will be moderating this session with the candidates, asking very pertinent questions that he has heard from community members. And then we also have Richard Alston, who is a former president of the Dayton unit NAACP. And he's going to go over the charter, over the ballot initiatives one by one, and we're going to record the answers of each one of the candidates. So once we hear from the candidates, then we will go into the ballot initiatives, and then we're going to Q&A with the candidates. So Valerie?
Oh, hi, my name is Valerie Duncan. Yes, I've been a long time resident here since I was high school, graduated from Wilbur High School, went on to college at Wright State University and got my degree in urban affairs, and then went on to get my graduate degree from University of Dayton. I also have a paralegal degree from Sinclair College. I've grown up in a labor family, blue collar family. We've always believed in unions, supporting unions, and supporting the community. And so I'm, excuse me, I'm dedicated to that for the city of Dayton, for all of the neighborhoods in the city of Dayton. I'm dedicated to helping all the citizens get ahead, no matter what your affiliation of church, state, political opinion, where you work, who you love, and also I'm supporting everybody in the city of Dayton. And my initiative is to create jobs, to help neighborhoods, especially our housing stock is so depleted. There's people living right next door. I was on Fairview, people living right now next door to dilapidated, collapsed roofed houses. We need to make a commitment. The city needs to make a commitment, just like they made a commitment to downtown Dayton, to make a commitment to all our neighborhoods, to revitalize our neighborhoods, develop our neighborhoods. And so we need to put our tax dollars there. And that's my number one priority, creating jobs and helping the homeless, the senior citizens, and women who have experienced domestic violence.
Thank you for your remarks. Just to let everybody know, we do have a stopwatch that we're using. So each person has 2 minutes, and we will now go next with Jordan.
Hi, Derek. Thanks for having me. My name is Jordan Wortham. I'm born and raised here in West Dayton. I am Dayton. I'm son of a Dayton police officer, son of a Dayton court judge. It's time for change in Dayton, Ohio. I think that's why we're here and we're attentive, and people want change, and I am change. First off, I'm a businessman. I grew up here in the city of Dayton. The Dayton residents are the most talented, hardworking people in America. We need the right leadership. We can be one of the greatest cities in America if we have the right leadership. We have the ingredients, we have everything that it takes. Y'all agree with that. How do we do that? It's making the city more attractive for business, investment, and development. I'm a businessman. I'm a security, equity, investor, and trader. So what I want to do is lower taxes. I want to look at regulatory policies that make it overly cumbersome for businesses and entrepreneurs to come here to take risks. I think in the current administration and commission, the mayor, they look at businesses as the enemies. They pick and choose which business they want to thrive or not thrive, or which one should get tax abatements, which one shouldn't. They put shame on large cap businesses, which I think is insane. I think we need small, mid, and large cap businesses to come to the city of Dayton. I want jobs, and more jobs, high paying jobs. If we have high paying jobs, it cascades into solutions, into problems we face every day in our neighborhoods. Secondly, I want to give power back to the people. People are upset. The current commission, Mr. Fairchild, they make decisions. We just follow their decisions after they make them. We have no participation, no say in legislation, budgets, anything. It's overpowerful. The Constitution was written to regulate the government, not the people. So I'm big in giving power back to the people, okay? Lastly, police reform. I'm a cop, was a cop. Mr. Fairchild, the commission, they have no idea of police reform. The barriers, perceived barriers are there, they're real, and they're evident. We need to take aggressive action, not police reform that they're fighting on. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we will go with Daryl Fairchild.
Thank you, President Forward, and thank you to the NAACP for hosting this. You have a long track record of making citizens aware of the issue, so I appreciate that. I'm Commissioner Daryl Fairchild. I'm running for re-election as City Commissioner. I think it is clear that we have just come through one of the most difficult 2 to 3 year periods in Dayton. And I think during that time, I demonstrated both responsible and responsive leadership. I'm proud of the work I've done. There were issues that I ran on over several election cycles, and those issues I worked on. I'm proud that we now have a visioning process that's almost completed for our neighborhoods, and yet there's still work to do. And that's part of the reason I'm running for re-election. We need a clear housing policy to come and implement that. I'm proud of little things I did, like meeting a voter on the campaign trail. And then when I was elected, I was able to get the dead tree that was in his tree lawn taken down, which he had worked for years to get down. But I'm also proud of the work that we're doing. While not perfect, I was at the beginning of the CPC. When I came on, I attended regularly to the CPC, tried to work to build the trust that we need in our relationship between police and community. And I believe that we're seeing some of that bear fruit in the police reform. And I know we're going to talk about the charter amendments. There's one in there particularly that I'm proud of, because from the day I was elected, I worked on it to make sure that it got to where it is now, and that's the protection of our water. And so citizens are going to have an opportunity to vote and make a change on the charter that will secure that our water cannot be sold off. So that's strong leadership that I've shown during a difficult time. But the reason I'm really running is because we have an incredible future ahead of us. There's 147 million questions that our community needs to answer, and it's going to take every voice to get it right. $147 million is coming from the federal government in the rescue plan. That money can be used to significantly change Dayton for the next generation and generations afterwards. We need to have a robust conversation. It starts today. We need to identify how we're going to spend that money so that we can redevelop our neighborhoods, not merely demolish, but invest in neighborhoods that haven't been invested in for over 30 years. It's a great opportunity that we have as a city. I think I have the vision to help lead it. I also have the skills to help bring more people to the table so that we can have the kind of conversation and engagement we need to get it right. I'm a Daytonian. I've lived here my whole life. I live in Dayton View now, grew up in Belmont. I'm the manager of Dayton Children's Hospital. I'm married and have a daughter who's a DPS student. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Sliver.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the NAACP for hosting this. Full disclosure, I'm on the executive board of the NAACP. I handle communications, press, and publicity for this great organization. I'm proud to do so. I also want to say good morning to the other candidates. Good to finally all be in the same place at the same time virtually. I have a background in marketing and advertising, which I believe will benefit the city greatly. I had large accounts like Kings Island and Merrill Lynch and worked on Delco products and NCR back in the day in my early career when I was living on Grafton Avenue, walking across the bridge, working at 4th and Ludlow across from the arcade. I am senior associate pastor of the Dayton Vineyard Church that I helped to found in 1990, which is more than half a lifetime ago for me now. I still serve in that capacity. I am one of the folks that leads outreach. I've been running a mobile food pantry for the past 12 years as a member agent of the Dayton Food Bank, providing groceries, excuse me, to nearly 1,000 households every month over the past 10 years. I proudly have served on the Community Police Council for more than 3 years, close to 4 years now, I believe. And I also serve on one of the police reform working groups, which was community engagement. I'm very proud of the work that we did. Be happy to share some of our recommendations. Some of them are stunning that we even had to recommend them. I've been a mentor at Dayton Public Schools for the past 5 years. I believe that my background can really make a difference in the city. I love our city and I love the people, and I'm looking forward to being one of your city commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next, we'll hear from, let's say, Shenise Turner Sloss.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Forward. I really appreciate the opportunity. I will also want to thank the NAACP, and good morning to all of the candidates. It is a pleasure to be here. As stated, my name is Shenise Turner Sloss. I'm a candidate for Dayton City Commission. I'm a former City of Dayton employee, a native of Dayton, and I am a current employee with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Now, I'll share with you all of that information, not to defend my resume or not to defend the passion or the commitment and the work that I have done in the city of Dayton. I believe that we need to do a better job at what we're doing. I am here to say to the Dayton residents, I hear you and I see you. I care about each and every one of you. And I think, again, we have to be authentic in the work that we're doing. I have been doing the work for over 15 years. And I'm saying that I do that work without a pay. I do that work before and after work with my family involved. I am a co-founder of Neighborhoods Over Politics. Again, I grew up in the city of Dayton, and the reason why I'm running for Dayton City Commission, because I grew up in a single family home. I grew up in a single family home where I didn't even know that we were poor. Because our basic needs were met, we don't have that today. Many of the families in the city of Dayton, they're struggling. We are labeled as one of the most impoverished cities in the nation. Our city is segregated, one of the most segregated cities in America. We have to do better. So with my experience, with my passion, and I believe me running for Dayton City Commission is in fact a calling. Me running for Dayton City Commission is altruistic. That means that I'm going to work for each and every one of the city members in this community, every resident, every neighborhood. I'm going to rebuild our healthy neighborhoods, making our neighborhoods healthy. I'm going to strengthen those business relationships. And first and foremost, I'm going to put the residents first. We have not seen that with our current commission. We have to do better, and it's evident, and we will have discussions about the ballot initiatives that we will discuss more in detail. Again, it's evident because we're not a priority with the current budget that is proposed and that was recently passed. We have to have people in office that are going to work for the residents in the city of Dayton, and not those who are running for office because they want to seek the ambitions of their political ploys. Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to speaking with you, everyone, and answering questions.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from, looks like Jared Wood Grandy. Okay, that's new to me. Jared Wood Grandy.
Thank you, Dr. Ford. Greetings. I'm happy to be here. Good morning. Thank you, Dayton residents, for joining us this morning, this Easter weekend. Happy Easter weekend. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy your families. My name is Jared Grandy, as stated. I am a lifelong Daytonian. I graduated from Meadowdale High School. I then went to St. Clair Community College for a couple of years before transferring to the University of Cincinnati, where I have a bachelor's in criminal justice. I earned a scholarship to Northern Kentucky University School of Law. After I graduated from there, I came back to the city of Dayton and worked for an organization called the Urban League, where I was a job developer and a youth counselor, and particularly I worked with at-risk youth at that job. Eventually, I got a job with the City of Dayton Human Relations Council. There I served as the Community Police Relations Coordinator, where I worked with a few folks on this call. I worked on the most pressing political issue of a decade. And I've seen the potential and the intellect and the thoughts and ideas of our community members. And I know that they're ready to do the work, not only on that particular issue, as we've seen with them recommending 90 different reforms. They're ready to do the work on all issues. And I'm here to help convene, bring people together, and have a collective impact on the city of Dayton. Commissioner Fairchild said it well. We will have a lot of money coming in from this relief, but we have to be good stewards of that money. And we have to have leadership who can help citizens decide how we spend that money. But we have to be able to listen to the leadership. We have to listen to the citizens. The leadership has to be responsive to the citizens. And we have to spend that money that's going to benefit every Daytonian. So I encourage you all to take a look at my website for more. I don't have time to go over my entire platform. I can tell you now it's lengthy, but visit jaredfordayton.com/Jared's plans to learn more about my platform and learn a little bit more about who I am. And I look forward to answering your questions. And I look forward to a robust discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we will hear from Stacy Benson Taylor.
Good morning, Dr. Forward, and I thank you for having this forum this morning. Thank the NAACP for the opportunity. Obviously a proud lifetime member of the NAACP who have participated in these forums from a different perspective, so it's a little odd for me. Good morning to all of the candidates. Excited to be here with everyone. I know everyone has a passion for the city of Dayton and a love for the city of Dayton, which is why we're all here. I bring unique experience to this race, though. As a labor leader for the last 15 years, I have represented the employees that work for the city of Dayton. I have represented those employees through 2 recessions, the loss of a major airline, the transfer of the convention center, police reform, as well as the challenges that we faced from the current COVID pandemic. In representing those employees, I have done so where I have had to work behind the scenes in a often challenging way where I have negotiated against, and challenged the city of Dayton in the decisions that they were making. I believe that working families are the key to our city. Strengthening working families strengthens our communities. And so as I went through this this COVID pandemic, what I saw was that I could begin to advocate for the citizens of Dayton and the working families of the citizens of Dayton, the working families in the city of Dayton from a different perspective. Which is why I entered this race. I believe that I have the ability with my experience. I go through that budget. Back in October, when the city presented that budget, what I did was go through it and I looked at the jobs that were being abolished. I looked at how the services were going to be impacted. I looked at whether we were balancing the budget effectively and how could we come up with creative ways for our employees to offset some of the challenges and obstacles that were obviously present as a result of the loss of revenue from COVID, but how we do that in a creative way. And so I believe it is that experience that I bring to the table that allows me or would make me an excellent Dayton City Commissioner.
Thank you. So I want to say thank you for the opening remarks of all 7 candidates. And as you heard at the beginning of this broadcast, this field will be cut down to 4 after the special election in the month of May. Early voting begins next Tuesday, which is why we're allowing all of our candidates to speak out to the people in the city of Dayton prior to early voting. NAACP is always fair but firm. We are an organization that is non-political. No, I'm sorry. We are nonpartisan. We're a nonpartisan organization, but we're highly political. In six core areas that we focus on in the NAACP nationally that rolls down statewide and rolls down locally. In 6 core areas that we're going to focus on in this call today is education, healthcare, economic sustainability, political representation, criminal justice, as well as youth and young adult engagement. Those are 6 core areas that we will focus on for the commission candidates today. So this time, I want to introduce our moderator, which is, he really needs no introduction. He's the state president of the NAACP, former state senator, former state representative that served our state well for over 20 years in the Ohio legislature, and currently serves as, when I think about servant leaders, I think about none other than Tom Roberts. He is one that has now serving under my leadership as second vice president, while still being a mentor to myself and many others across the state. So I'll introduce Tom Roberts at this time, and then Tom will introduce Richard Alston, who served as the 29th president of the Dayton unit NAACP.
Well, thank you, President Forward. I look forward to hearing all of your comments. We had a good mayor's forum last night We talked about the 6 charter issues that we're looking forward to getting your response. It's my honor to bring to the floor to ask you a series of questions. And it's one of our former presidents and well-known attorney in the Dayton area, Richard Austin. He is back in the Dayton area. He's been extremely helpful to President Forward and I to focus on these issues. So at this point, I will introduce you to those who don't know Richard Austin, one of the former presidents of the of the Dayton unit NAACP. Attorney Austin, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good morning.
Okay. And
Good morning.
let me give a disclaimer also. I have a problem with my mic, so I'm using earphones. So if I sound like I'm shouting, that's because of the situation, okay? I'm going to read the charter amendments that's on the ballot, on the sample ballot, just as they appear. Charter Amendment 3, proposed charter amendment for the city of Dayton. Shall the charter of the city of Dayton, Ohio be amended by revising section 36 to specifically detail the mayor's responsibilities? Yes or no are the choices. Mr. Forward, should I just read them all, or are you going to stop and discuss them as we go through?
No, so what we'll do is we'll hear from each one of the candidates, yes or no. So the first charter is what number now?
3. Number 3.
Okay, so charter number 3, in this order, we're going to hear from Jared, Stacy, Shenise, Jordan, Valerie, Scott, Daryl, in that order.
And Dr. Ford, let me suggest, let them give their yes or no in just a 1 minute reason for their choice.
Obliged. Jared?
Thank you. This is no for me. It's not necessary. The mayor's response, I understand the task of the mayor, but the mayor is
ginger snaps all the time. I love ginger cookies.
Sorry about that. I just joined.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, again, the answer is no for me. I understand the responsibility of the mayor. I understand the spirit of this amendment. However, this is not the time to change. There are too many things that are up in the air. There are too many unknowns. And we're not certain where this money would come from. So in a pandemic and with so many things unknown, I don't support this at this time.
Okay, thank you. Stacy?
Yes, so if I'm correct, this is the amendment that basically clarifies the mayor's responsibilities. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Okay, so I believe that memorializing what a job actually is very, very important. I looked at this, I did not see this as an amendment where it was overstepping into the city manager's responsibilities. I felt like it was clarifying or memorializing a lot of what the mayor already does. So I'm in favor of this amendment.
Okay, thank you. Shenise?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Forward. So I am in opposition for this charter change, for this charter amendment. I think that what this change does, it creates our government structure where we are continuously being too heavy at the top. We have a city manager, we have 2 deputy city managers. We do not, at this time, we do not need to increase the mayoral responsibilities. There is no need to change that. All that does is strengthen the argument for a strong mayoral system, a government system in place. And at this time, that is not what the city of Dayton needs. So it is a no for me. Thank you.
Jordan?
I'm going to vote no, absolutely no. There's too much power at the top where it's overpowerful, dictated by a power. And I get this language, and what they're trying to do is give more power to the elites in terms of the mayor position. It's a city manager form of government. Our people don't have any participation, any say in anything. So this, absolutely no, I'm voting no.
Thank you. Valerie?
Yes, I'm opposed to this charter amendment. Under the current charter that was created, the mayor should remain part-time. The city of Dayton manager under the charter is the main operating officer of the city of Dayton. That's where the responsibility should remain. That's where the responsibility is now, and that's where it should remain. The mayor should not be a political, it should be bipartisan, and I oppose the change.
All right, thank you. Scott?
Thank you. I'm a yes. I'm for it. I think clarity is good. Having something that clarifies roles and responsibilities is not a bad thing. 6 years ago, when I ran for city commission, I called down to City Hall and asked if there was a job description for what a city commissioner does, and it does not exist. It's just do whatever fits within the city charter. I think it's about accountability and clarity. So I'm for it. I don't think it diminishes the role or overstates it. I just think it clarifies the role. We all know that it's a city manager led city, and the mayor, it's a weak mayor form of government. I just think clarity is good.
Okay, thank you. And Daryl?
So I've already voted yes on this when it came from the Charter Review Committee. I wanted to honor the work that they did. I look forward to seeing how the citizens vote on this. I think it's really an opportunity for them to have some say. I'm actually neutral in terms of this election on this one particular one, because I want to hear what citizens say. I would say that I think it should actually be part of a bigger conversation and a larger look at the city election. There's, I think, questions in the community about how we could elect our city commissioners. What does the city commissioner, the commission actually be configured, and some broader questions that should be connected to this one around redefining or clarifying the roles of the mayor. So I'm neutral on this particular one, even though I voted it out so that citizens could have a say.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify on the charter number 3, charter or ballot initiative number 3, Richard, can you state what section that is in case a citizen wants to go to look at the charter? What section of the
36, section 36.
Section number 36. So if a
Yes.
citizen wants to go and review a little bit more about this particular issue, go and view section 6 of the city's charter.
It's okay.
Valerie, and if you can go on mute, please. So ballot initiative number 3, just to recap, Jared is a no, Stacy is a yes, Shenise, no, Jordan, no, Valerie, no, Scott, yes, Daryl, yes, but he wants to wait on the voters.
No, Daryl said neutral. Yes, either if you're going to give him on the yes. Well, he said yes. Okay.
He actually voted yes to get it to.
Oh, okay, fine. Good. Okay.
Go ahead and proceed with the next one. Is that number 4?
Yes, number 4 reads, shall the charter of the city of Dayton, Ohio be amended by revising section 38 to calculate commission members' salary as a designated fraction of Montgomery County Commissioner's salary to the effect and to affect benefits received. Let me read that again where it be clear. Shall the charter amendment be revised to revise section 38 to calculate commission members' salary as a designated fraction of Montgomery County Commissioner's salary and to reflect benefits received, yes or no?
Okay, and let's just go in reverse order. Daryl.
I have a similar stance on this one. Again, I voted yes for it to come out to honor the work of the review board. The good thing about this is that it would take any influence that the commission would have in terms of compensation by tying it to this figure that's set by the state legislature. the current structure isn't great because the commission and mayor pick the compensation board, then the compensation board makes a recommendation. I've been one who really feels that I shouldn't have a say in my compensation. And so every time there's been a raise when I've been on the commission, I've deferred that and stayed at the salary that I was elected to. And again, I think this should be part of a conversation around a larger conversation with more citizen input around the nature of the commission, how it's configured, and how we do the elections. So again, to clarify, I think you're asking whether we're endorsing this or not. I'm not endorsing this for citizens. I look forward to their vote, but I did vote yes for it to come out of the charter review.
Okay, Scott?
Well, what is that, a yes or no?
Well, that is a yes. The way we're going to do this, Richard, is that however he voted, because he is a current sitting commissioner, it's going to be what his vote is at this time. So let's next, Scott.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this really makes no sense to me. I understand that there are procedures in place, but having city commissioners' salaries tied to county commissioners, it just makes no sense to me. I'm a solid no on this.
Thank you. Valerie?
Yes, thank you. Yes, my position on this ballot issue is no. Again, the charter was created for that the commissioners are part-time. I think the salary that the current commission has voted for themselves is adequate. And because of the recession and all this other problems that we're having, I think it should remain the way it is.
Okay, Jordan?
No, no, and more no. When you look at these numbers, this is the highest pay increase that the commissioners will get. They've got 3 pay increases in the last few years. This pay increase is going to be a 15% pay increase. You knew how much money they were going to get paid when they took the job. People are cutting at the table in households, across the departments, across the city, 10, 12%. And the top officials, again, we're going back to the same thing. They want more power and more money. No.
Okay. Shenise?
Yeah, so my answer is simple. It's no. And the reason why I say that is because we're dealing with trauma. The city of Dayton has gone through some catastrophic events, considering also that we're in a global pandemic. It is not the time for us to even entertain this amendment change. I also think that it is disingenuous for our current commission to even ask this of the voters, considering everything that we are under. I think that it also speaks to the fact that we have cut our workforce by 1/3. It does not solve any of the issues that we're having. And again, my answer is no.
Okay, thank you. Stacy?
Okay, my answer on this particular amendment is a no. While I understand the need to have set parameters and not have someone like the compensation board make the decision, it is the amount of increases based upon what we have financially faced over the last year or so that I would not be in support of this, because these are significant raises and the employees that I represented took a wage freeze because of the situation that the city was in. And so I would not recommend this at this time.
Okay, thank you. Jared?
Yeah, like everyone else, this is an absolutely no for me. I'm not voting for a raise for city commissioners in a time that almost every department in the city took a budget cut. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to fund the Dayton Human Relations Council properly. We still need to fund the Dayton Youth and Rec Services. There's so many other needs in this community, and I can't, in good spirit, in good conscience, vote yes for a raise for our city leadership. we're servants. This is what we're signing up to do. And I don't think I should make it, more than most Daytonians for a part-time job. So no.
Thank you, candidates. And if anyone wants to go, if a citizen wants to go and educate themselves more, that's section 38 of the charter under compensation and attendance. Attorney Austin, go to the next ballot issue, please.
Okay, ballot number 5. Shall the charter of the city of Dayton be amended by revising section 39 to allow commission meetings to occur by electronic means during emergencies? Yes or no?
Okay, let's go with Shenise.
It is a yes for me. I think that we are in a state right now where life is happening. We need to be able to have, to conduct the business of the city of Dayton. But with that being said, we also need to make sure that whatever we're doing in person and having those meetings, we need to also mimic those practices electronically online. We need to make sure that we're giving our residents the opportunity to speak and to make any comments during the input, the citizens comment period. So it is a yes for me. Life is happening. We need to make sure that we're able to conduct city business.
Jordan?
That is a yes. That's technology. That works. It's science. It works. If somebody is out of town, if somebody is sick, they should be able to attend like we're attending right now. The issues that are tall, we need businesses and we need police reform. We need front-facing body cameras. The reform that came out is not reform. It's the same structural approach. The police are governing themselves 100%. We need to talk tall about the issues that matter. That's jobs, more jobs, safety, police reform. So that's my answer to the Zoom video conference meetings. That's a no-brainer.
Okay, thank you. Valerie?
Unmute, Valerie.
Okay, yes. Well, we're moving in the 21st century. I think COVID-19 has helped us do that. Unfortunately, for those who've had to suffer for it. But yes, it only makes sense that we do have these meetings Zoom. And I hope that this also includes the city residents, that they still continue can access the city commission meetings. They can also have their voice heard at these meetings.
So your answer is yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Stacy?
My answer to that question is yes. It is absolutely important during this time to have the ability to have electronic Zoom meetings. I sit on the Public Defender Commission. I also sit on the AFL-CIO Executive Board, both bodies where we have voted to have Zoom meetings. And I agree that that should also be done with the City of Dayton Commission and making sure that the citizens have access to information and the ability to communicate with the commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Jared?
Yes, sir. This is an easy yes for me. Come on, it's the 21st century. And we have the technology to provides us this opportunity to meet digitally. So I think we should take advantage of it. However, I want to echo Shanice's point. We shouldn't use this technology to circumvent the rules with regard to citizen engagement. Unfortunately, I've seen that done previously with the current commission. And we need to work to make sure that every voice is heard, that citizens have a chance to put their input in with regard to the decisions that the commission is making. So yes, but we need to be very careful about how we use this technology.
Scott?
I'm a yes. I think it's a pretty obvious yes. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. I mean, we're having a candidate forum by Zoom. I think desperate times call for desperate measures, and the city did what it had to do. I do think that we need to still respect the sunshine laws. I know the city has done their best to do that, to make sure that the word has gotten out about how people can join meetings. But I think we need to make sure that the citizens have their voice, that they can still show up, like at a live meeting, they show up, sign the paper, and they get their 3 minutes in front of the commission. And I think people have struggled to be able to do that. So I'm a yes with caution.
Daryl?
I'm a yes. This simply gets us into a position to align with what we need to do within this pandemic. I think we need to do a better job of citizen engagement in this environment. I think we were unprepared for this type of setting. And so I think we need to, as we move out of this emergency and put this in place, we need to be judicious of when we use it, and we need to be better prepared to include more citizen engagement in a more transparent way.
Thank you, candidates. So if a citizen wants to go and read the charter, that's section number 39 of the charter. And just to recap, they all voted yes. All candidates voted yes. And to go back up to ballot issue number 4, number 38, everybody voted no, with exceptions of Daryl, who voted yes initially during the charter review. But I'm going to take a presidential privilege right now, because before we can move on to the next ballot initiative, and that is, since I heard from 3 of the 7 candidates regarding issues at current city commission meetings, it looks like either Jared and or Shenise know a little bit more about that. Can either one of you explain to me what, to us, exactly what occurred, the reason why that happened?
Yes, absolutely. So during the time of the budget cuts, there were incidents where petitions were sent in, over 300, 400 petitions were sent in, a number of comments were made, and the city commission made a conscious decision not to read those comments. There were also issues prior to that where comments were sent into the city commission and they were essentially screened, and a number of them were thrown out, and they were not even mentioned during the public comment period for the city commission meetings. So that is an issue. So we definitely need to be mindful of that. We need to honor our sunshine law in Ohio, and we need to make sure that we're giving the residents an opportunity to be engaged, to pose questions, and to then in turn to receive answers in a follow-up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you. Okay, Richard?
I think in fairness, you should give the present commissioner an opportunity to maybe explain or give a comment.
Okay.
Thank you. I think the most egregious act was back around the shot spotter, and there were comments that were sent in that were not, they were sent in timely, and they didn't get forwarded to the commissioners as the process stipulates. And I apologize to citizens for that mistake. And I wish the whole city commission would have joined me in that apology, because it really was disrespectful. It might've been an innocent error, but still the action was that we didn't get those comments prior to our vote, and that was wrong. And I apologize to citizens for that. I saw all the comments prior to the budget process. I think it raises the bigger question, one that I have been pushing for as we've been meeting online, is how do we include citizen engagement and comments in the midst of this environment? And we haven't come up with a solution yet. And that's on us. And I think there's room to do better.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
Okay, number 6, shall the charter of the city of Dayton, Ohio be amended by revising section 97 to allow for police and firefighters recruit appointments to be selected from a larger group of applicants? Yes or no?
Okay. Let's start with Valerie.
Okay. Well, my position on this is neutral right now. because I want to hear from the voters. I don't know who was all at the table when these reforms were being reviewed. I don't know if the police and fire were involved. From what I understand, they were not. And if you're talking about diversity, well, I think everybody should have been at the table to have their 2 cents put in. And it kicked around. I think there's a lot of things that could be done to create diversity and to change the civil service rules.
Ms. Duncan, in reference to this candidates forum, I think that the citizens deserve, in terms of leadership, because I look for leadership. So I think that the citizens need to know where exactly you stand on this particular issue, since this is an issue that's going to occur on the ballot this coming Tuesday, with either a yes or a no.
It's already on the ballot issue, and I have explained.
Yes.
I've explained that to various groups. So at this time, I support that it's on the ballot.
All right. Okay, Shenise?
So it is a yes for me. I think this is one of the ways that we can answer the ongoing issue that we've had with our police and fire. This allows for candidates to be screened and based on their merit. This gives us the opportunity for diversity. This also answers the call for the police and fire to be reflective of the demographics that they serve. So it is a yes for me.
Okay, thank you. Jared?
Yes, sir. This is a yes for me, but I have to say it's far from a panacea. I think it would give us an opportunity to increase diversity in our law enforcement. However, there has to be a lot of shifts within the culture of our current Dayton Police Department. Once applicants get through the process and become officers, they have to feel welcome and supported. There's a candidate on this forum who could speak to his experience as a Dayton police officer, and I'll let him speak for himself. But we don't have a good track record about how with regard to how people of color are treated within the Dayton Police Department. So again, this is a yes, but it's far from a panacea. We have a lot more work to do if we want to increase diversity on our police department.
Thank you. A panacea, huh? All right, using them big words. You go with your bad self, all right? Let's go with Jordan, please.
Yes, this is going to be a vote of no for me. I'm the only cop, former Dayton police officer, served for 7 years. I worked the street growing up as a man. When you look at the rule of 1, 3, or 10, we're spinning our wheels and we're going nowhere. For example, I'm gonna break it down real simple. When my dad was a police officer in the 60s, there was 40% blacks on the force. Now there's 5%. Less than 5% of Dayton police officers live in the city of Dayton. It starts at the top with the chief and city manager. Mr. Fairchild's proud of his reform. We're at 5% blacks on the force. I'm not very proud of that. We are not reflective of our community. We don't even have front-facing body cameras. The chief and Mr. Fairchild are still testing it out because they don't know if the science works. So that's an absolutely vote of no. We're not going anywhere.
Okay. And just as a qualifier, I know in the 70s, we went to, well, hold on. Let me wait on my comments. Scott.
Thank you. I am a yes on this particular issue. I know that, well, when I joined the CPC, one of the first things I asked Chief Beal, I sat across from him at a meeting and I asked him, I said, Chief Beal, if you could wave your magic wand as police chief and go from 10% minority, it is 5% African-American and 5% women. So it's 10% minority. I said, can you just say, we're gonna up that number to 20% minority to start with? And, I got all the explanations about, blind recruitment, test scores, et cetera, got all that. I think they need to do something. I know that there was an internship program that was started that gave minorities a little bit of an edge through the testing process. It gave them a bit of advanced standing, and that has helped a little bit over the past couple of years, but the city certainly needs to do more. I know they put forth a lot of effort to recruit minorities, but whatever is happening is not working, so they need to do more. So I'm yes.
Thank you. Daryl?
I'm a yes on this. I believe it will help take away one of the barriers of having a diverse force, but it's not enough. And to give you an example, we started the Homegrown Heroes program, which was actually something that kind of grew out of an initiative that I had raised around a cadet program. We don't have cadets. That could be another piece. But with the Homegrown Heroes, we made it so that we looked at the whole Dayton workforce and who was eligible to become a firefighter and a police officer. And then we gave them all the information and recruited them to apply in. And they would get first choice into the classes before this list that's generated by the testing. We had great success with firefighters, and we had the most diverse class for firefighting in years. We didn't do as well on the police. And so that says to me that we have other barriers that are in the way that's preventing us from having a diverse force. Right now, we are recruiting for police officers for the next class. And it's really important to have diverse applicants apply, because if you don't start out with a diverse pool, you're not going to get a diverse class. And so I encourage people who might be interested or know people who would be good officers to ask them to apply now so that we can get to the force that we know we need.
Thank you. And Stacy?
Okay, so Derek's probably going to be surprised with my answer because we've had this rule of one conversation for years. But for police and fire recruitment, I am actually in favor of expanding that. The rule of one was instrumental in making sure that the blue collar and clerical professions were diverse at that time, and probably even police and fire back then. But for police and fire, it has not been effective. So I would be in favor of that. We do have to go, further in this process, but I am in favor of this process for the police and fire recruitment.
Thank you, candidates. So just to recap, for ballot issue number 6, which can be found in section 97 of the charter, it's a yes for everyone except for Jordan.
Isn't this number 4, Mr. President?
Oh,
it's number 6 is the initiative. It's our 4th.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
okay, yes, number 6. And so which can be found in section number 97. So that is a yes for everyone with the exception of Jordan Wortham. And Valerie was actually a neutral, but we want to make certain that she espoused leadership to give us an answer either or not. So just so the voters will know that Valerie Duncan was actually neutral, but we wanted to get an answer from her from a leadership standpoint of which direction she would go. And just to be mindful, because I was going to say something.
So here. I said yes. That's
yes.
You asked me for yes or no, and I said yes.
Yes.
It's not an ideal. It lacks a lot of things, a lot, but I'll support it as it is.
We recorded the yes.
Yes. So so in reference to this, I know that back in post the 70s, there was a ruling that came down from the Supreme Court, to make Rule of One. The Rule of One went into effect, but prior to that, I'm just thinking back to the comments from Mr. Wortham, is that prior to that, the rule of one was probably not in effect. I don't know what was in effect post the 60s. So it may have been what it is today, or what the ballot initiative reads today. That's something that we may have to go back and take a look at to see what it was back in the 60s. Go ahead, George.
They had a different police chief.
Okay, what would that have to do with the rule of one and expanding it to the rule of three, rule of 10?
Because they arbitrarily pick who they want and who they don't want.
Okay. Okay, so Richard?
Yes. Ballot issue number 7, shall the city of Dayton, Ohio, the charter of the city of Dayton, Ohio be amended by revising section 105 to expand employee rights to engage in political activities? Yes or no?
Okay, so let's start with Jared this time.
Thank you. This is an absolute yes for me as a former city of Dayton employee. I felt like my constitutional rights were limited by not being able to engage in certain political activity, or feeling like I would be disciplined if I did engage in certain political activity. I like the fact that there are some safeguards with regard to helping local municipal candidates. They're not able to do that. City employees can't help local municipal candidates. That would be a direct conflict of interest. So I support that restriction. But city employees are human beings. We're citizens of this country, and we should be able to weigh in on political issues. And so with that being said, I absolutely support this proposed amendment.
Okay, thank you. Shenise?
Yes, thank you. It is a yes for me. This is the one place where the government cannot suppress an individual's speech. And so it is also our constitutional right. But here's the thing. What an employee does before and after work, that is your God-given right. No one can tell you what you can or cannot do. As a former City of Dayton employee, I was engaged in a number of political races, and that was my right. That is our constitutional right. So I'm happy to see that this is a proposed amendment change. Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan?
This is a vote of no. When you look at the language, no officer or employee shall directly or indirectly solicit or receive. This is a First Amendment right thing. You're limiting their First Amendment right. But the current mayor can take a $20,000 check from you, but you can't solicit. So I can't put a yard sign in front of my house, but I can write the commission, the mayor, Mr. Fairchild, a $20,000 check. That's no.
But it's changing it. That's what the provision changes this, where it would not be no.
Right.
Right, and that's why I was trying to help you out with the other one as well, Jordan. Issue number, I think that was number 6, I believe.
Number 6, yeah.
So we can talk later. But okay, thank you, Valerie.
I would support it. It's a yes. I think for too long we've had this Hatch Act, over all the employees' heads, and I don't think it was totally necessary. The Hatch Act came out in 1935 because of all sorts of underhanded things that were being conducted by the civil service employees, federal employees at the time. But it should be modified, and I support it. It's a yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am in favor of this amendment. I often have employees tell me that they are not political, but when you work for a public employer, you are political because you elect your bosses. And so I believe that it is important for employees to engage in political activity. I understand with the limitation for, municipalities, absolutely, or for this municipality, but overall, there are so many things that affect public employees on a state government level, a federal government level, county government level. Employees need to be able to engage.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
I'm a yes on this. It's like, sure, why not? Doesn't it make sense that every person has a voice? Perhaps there is some caution behind my yes, but I'd say more than just a right, it's a person's duty to be able to speak out on whatever the issues are and to be able to lend their voice to whatever candidate they support. So I'm a yes.
Okay, thank you. And Daryl?
I'm a yes on this, but I want to make a point. I believe actually Mr. Wortham is correct because it still prohibits advocacy in municipal races. And so this clarifies that our employees can be politically active outside of city races, but it still prohibits those activities for municipal, if I've read the language correct. And I think that's the correct stance because when you work for the city, you become a civil servant, and citizens need to know that when they come before you in whatever capacity you're serving as a civil servant, that they're going to be treated fairly. And I think that's the reason for that provision. And I think this clarifies that employees can be politically active, but not within the city race.
Mr. President.
I'm going to share my screen. And then I want Richard Alston, who is an attorney or retired attorney, but has won major lawsuits right here in the city of Dayton. I'm going to put up on the screen that particular section, which is section number 105. And I'll let him read the entire section so that our citizens can see it for themselves as well.
Okay.
Read the entire section, and that way everybody can see it.
Okay, let me give a caveat. This and the problem that I had when I first saw the ballot, the sample ballot, and I called Derek, is because the ballot is really wanting in explaining to voters what they're voting on. Now, what is up here as the political beliefs 105, this is not on the ballot, okay? And this is not 105, the old 105. This is the change to 105. So I don't know which part of this you want me to read.
Just read the charter language, please. Just read the charter language just so everybody can see what the charter language is going to be changing to that's in red, but read the entire charter language.
Okay, because what you have, the red is the change. The charter shall be, it'll read, no officer of or employee of the city shall directly or indirectly solicit or receive or be in any manner concerned in soliciting or receiving any assessment, subscription, or contribution for any political party, and to be used in a city of Dayton municipal election or in support of or in opposition of any candidate for election to the office of mayor or member of commission of the city of Dayton, comma, Dayton municipal judicial election, comma, Dayton municipal clerk of courts election, period. No person holding a position in the classified service shall take any part in political management or affairs or in political campaigns further than to cast their vote or to express privately their opinion, period. Addition, this section shall not be construed to limit any person's right as a citizen to express opinions or to cast a vote, nor shall it be construed to prohibit any person from active participation in political campaigns at any level of government other than City of Dayton municipal elections or in support of or in opposition to any candidate for election to the office of mayor, comma, member of commission of the City of Dayton, comma, Dayton municipal judicial elections, comma, or Dayton municipal clerk of courts elections, period. Any violation of this section shall operate to forfeit the office or position held by the person violating the same and shall render any such person ineligible to any municipal office or position for a period of 1 year, period, the end. This is my first time seeing that.
Okay. So just wanted to share that with the voters and all the candidates, just so they're clear on what the section actually reads. What you see in black is what's currently there, and what you see in red is what the proposed additional change will be. Okay, thank you. Attorney Austin, I proceed with number 8.
Okay, number 8, shall the city of Dayton, Ohio shall the charter of the city of Dayton, Ohio be amended by enacting section 190 to declare the city's water system to be a public utility that shall not be leased or transferred to private ownership or control? Yes or no?
Okay, and so let's start with Jared.
Yes, sir. I am in support. This is a yes for me. We have to protect our water, and we should be able to hold our leadership accountable for their ability to protect our water. I do not trust corporations or with corporate interests to have control of our water. It only makes sense that that the city maintains control of our water so the citizens can hold the leadership accountable for making sure our water is safe. We don't want to find ourselves in a position like there are in other places. Yeah, yes for me.
Stacy?
Yes, I am in favor of this ballot initiative. When the city of Cincinnati tried to sell off their waterworks department, I spearheaded a ballot initiative with the Cincinnati NAACP to stop that. I believe that our water is one of the greatest resources that we have. Our water is probably about the second or third best water in the nation. And so we have to protect that resource. We have to maintain control. And so I'm absolutely in favor of this.
Okay, thank you. Shenise?
It is an absolute yes for me. We have to protect our water. We have to make sure that we continue to control our water. At the end of the day, we do not want to end up like Flint, Michigan. And so in doing so, we have to make sure that, again, we're protecting our greatest resource, and that is the water in the city of Dayton. So it is a yes for me.
Thank you. Jordan?
That's a yes. I don't believe in privatizing a public utility, something that's so essential. Our system works, our water is great. The citizens enjoy our water. I don't believe it should go to a private corporation. I think there can be a conflict of interest of profitability. in terms of what is best for the Dayton citizens. But what we need to talk about is jobs. We need more jobs, and we need to fight to get corporations, large cap companies, small companies, entrepreneurs to come to the city of Dayton to invest. So I'm big in talking about the issues that are tall, that people care about. People want jobs. We don't have access to jobs and high-paying jobs. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Valerie.
Oh, yes, I'm all for it. Yes. I think we don't want corporations to take over our water supply, but the city needs to do more in protecting our aquifer and our water fields. I don't think that's being done right now. The chemicals that are coming from the airport and from other uses, industrial uses, there are getting into our water supply. Now the city position it is right now, well, it's not enough to hurt anybody. Well, my position is it's too much, and we need to take action now to get those chemicals out of our water supply. Do we have the technology to do it? If we have to dust off that advisory board that we passed, the city passed, the commission passed after the Sherwin-Williams fire, then we should do that because our greatest resource is our water supply. That's why a lot of companies locate here, and we need to protect it for our citizens.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
I think this is a pretty simple yes, that our water be declared a public utility. We need to do everything we can to protect it. As important as our water is, I still believe that our people are our city's greatest resource, and then followed by other things. I just think that's worth stating, but everyone knows that we have this amazing water supply and we need to protect it implicitly. So I'm a yes.
Thank you. And Daryl?
Yes, I mentioned earlier that this is something that I worked on to get to this point. I'm very proud that citizens are going to have an opportunity to vote on this, and I encourage them strongly to vote yes for this. The current situation is that typically companies look at water systems that are run poorly. We're not in that position, so we haven't had an attempt to privatize our utility yet. However, because we run ours so well, there will be a day when someone looks at it and wants the profits and want to raise rates and diminish service. And so this gets ahead of it. The current situation is that an emergency ordinance could come to the commission, added to the commission at the time of the commission, and be voted on that night, and we would we would privatize our utility. That is unacceptable. I'm glad that this has come from the charter review, and this gives an opportunity for citizens to strengthen our ability to control our own water utility and water.
Thank you. Thank you. So just to digress for a moment, so ballot issue number 7, which can be found in section 105, it was a yes among all candidates with exceptions of Jordan Wortham. He was a no. And then on number 8, which can be found in section number 190, all candidates voted yes affirmative.
That's a new section.
And which is a new section. Thank you. And I want to thank Richard Alston, 29th president of the Dayton unit NAACP for moderating that session, going through the actual ballot initiatives. And so at this time, I want to, before turning it over to Tom Roberts, I want to go to Roland Winburn, and before he states his question, at the beginning of this town hall, this forum, this candidates forum, Scott Sliver made a full disclosure about his position on the executive committee of the NAACP. But I want to make a full disclosure that the NAACP, he had to step down of his role as chair of the communications, press, and publicity role. And likewise, for Roland Winburn, also had to step down and in his leadership role as chair of economic development. But they're still members and can still proceed from there. So I just want to make that very clear that if, because the NAACP, we have policies in place that any particular chairperson and or person like myself in an officer position, we will have to step down from our roles while we actually run for office. Once your name has been approved to be on the ballot and you're on the ballot, you have to step down from your role as an officer and or as an executive or as a committee chair. So just want to make certain that people understand that, and that and also one thing I started to say at the beginning as well, I believe that everyone on all the candidates are either life members and or members of the NAACP that are on this call. There may be one exception, but not certain on that. But I believe that everybody is either a life member and or member of the NAACP. And if there is an exception, I would encourage to handle that business going forward. So with that in mind, I'm going to Roland Winburn and see if Roland can ask a question as it relates to economic sustainability. Roland, are you there? Okay, he's not able to make a comment at this time. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom Roberts, who's our political action chair.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Attorney Austin, for that fantastic conversation with the commission candidates. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about federal dollars that are coming to the city of Dayton. And a lot of citizens, residents have and always have for many years been concerned with what is the city going to do for neighborhoods? You know, what are you going to do? How are you going to help neighborhoods? My mother is in the Edgemont area, and they're talking about closing a firehouse over there. So I think there needs to be a conversation among the candidates for city commission on what are you going to do for the neighborhoods? We know that we need a lively and a vibrant downtown Dayton. We have the performing arts. We will soon have the arcade with financial institutions, but somebody has to step up on the city commission and be in favor of the neighborhoods, speak out on behalf of the neighborhoods. There's a lot of groupthink that goes on city commissions and general assemblies, but there needs to be independent voice. So I'd like to just ask each and every one of you, what are you gonna do for me? You know, as a neighborhood would say, what are you gonna do for me? What are you gonna do for the neighborhoods that are really trying to make a difference, such as Residence Park and Edgemont, who are really doing some fantastic work in Caroline in their neighborhoods. They need some help, city commissioners. So let's find out what you're gonna do for them. And I'll go in alphabetical order. I think I have an alphabetical order list, and even though you may have a hyphenated name, I'm gonna go with Benson as your last name, Stacy. And so go with in alphabetical order with Stacy Benson Taylor first.
Thank you. Excellent question, especially with the amount of money that is coming into the city. The initial CARES Act, that money did not provide any type of revenue recovery for any type of losses. So with losses of jobs, that money did not take care of that. Loss of income, that money didn't take care of that. This new money definitely takes care of that. So it allows the city to fill the gaps, which then allows for the city to invest in neighborhoods. One of the things that we have to do is we have to work on a plan of building our neighborhoods from the inside out. So the city begins to invest in beautification, invest in infrastructure, invest in educating people on the process. We have so many people that have small businesses. We need to replicate what's successful. We need to replicate the entrepreneurs market. We need to replicate the investments that are working and give people that opportunity. And so we need to take that money, we need to use that money to leverage the funds needed to bring not just large businesses, but small businesses. And I believe that when we start to invest like that, that gives people hope. Investing in waste collection, the numbers of employees in waste collection are half from 15, 20 years ago. Well, we need those employees because when we look around, we see a lot of trash. We see a lot of waste that's out there. And so, with issue 9, which obviously I supported 100%, we are cutting the grass more. We are paving the streets more, but there's a lot more investment that we can do in the neighborhoods that will help generate and bring business in the neighborhoods and improve the hope and frustration of the citizens.
Thank you, Stacy Benson Taylor. Valerie Duncan.
Well, hi, I'm Valerie Duncan. This has been my number one issue, is supporting the neighborhoods. I don't think enough resources from the city of Dayton is going into our neighborhoods. We have dilapidated, vacant houses. I've talked to a lady on Westland. She's lived next to a vacant house. Vagrants are going in and out. I checked with the nuisance abatements. There's 2 houses actually on her street, never ever even been on the nuisance abatement list. Right now, we have 2 housing inspectors. I think we're training 2 housing inspectors. In the meantime, we have all these houses that are going bad. They're dilapidating and deteriorating right in front of our eyes. I was on Fairview. I've been all over the city, Indianola, Santa Clara, and there's people that are living next to houses that have caved in, or the debris from the removal is still there. This has been an ongoing problem for 10 years, and people have come and gone through the city commission. They have been either reelected or they're trying to get reelected, and this is the number one issue. I don't know what they've been working on when it comes to neighborhoods. It's going to take more than an identity sign and a beautification project. This is going to take a lot of commitment and dedication. So it's going to be somebody that can roll up their sleeves. They already know from the get-go what's needed with our neighborhoods. And it's just a lack of commitment, a lack of resources that has been earmarked for our neighborhoods. We cannot just continue leaving these structures just scattered all over that are vacant. And we have to have a plan so that our own residents can acquire ownership of these properties. We've had plans in the 80s, housing programs in the 80s to acquire these properties and turn them over to the citizens of Dayton, and we need those type of programs now.
Thank you. Daryl Fairchild.
And before Daryl goes, I want to start the start watch, each time, and then we're going to give each person 1:30 because there's a list of questions, so we will be mindful of time.
Right, 1:30. Daryl
Right.
Fairchild.
Thank you. This has been an issue that I've worked on for years and campaigned on, and then as a city commissioner have continued that work. I'm proud that we have the UDA work that's coming, the visioning work, but it's not enough. What we really need for citizens is to continue delivery of services, which I think we've done even during difficult times. The one exception around there is code enforcement and housing inspection. We need to do more of that in terms of a service. One area on basic services I think we could do better is, I don't know how many calls I take around bulk pickup where someone has moved out and left it on the curb, and the person who's moved out isn't going to be responsible and call that in. And so a neighbor has to call that in. We have public works that drive by those every day and can spot those. it seems to me that we could just, and we've had this in the past and they've cut this, but I think it needs to come back. Our waste collection, when they see that, they should have a quick way that they can fill that out and initiate it, so that we're coming out and picking up that bulk trash. So that's a service we can do better on. But the key is really around housing, and we can do more than infrastructure as a city. We really need to find a way to encourage home ownership, and for some of our older adults to stay in their homes and in safe ways. And I'm looking at Akron to talk to them this week. They have a plan around housing.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Jared Grandy.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts, and I agree with your statements with this regard. First of all, you know what you need in your neighborhood, Mr. Roberts. You've lived there for a while, and you're very aware of the issues. However, we have discontinued and cut off the pipeline between neighborhoods and the city. We need to reinstitute those pipelines. We need to bring back our priority boards, and we need to invest in our Department of Community Development. Right now, we have one person responsible for all the neighborhood associations. She's the one liaison. That won't do it, right? We need to figure out how to put power centers back into the community, and we're going to do that by investing in those initiatives and in those efforts. We also need to be smart and use our brain power and how to figure out how we use this money to improve these neighborhoods. We got really creative when we wanted to reinstitute the arcade. We figured out how to find money to do that. We got really creative when the white supremacist group came downtown. We found $670,000 to protect 9 people. We can get creative about investing in our neighborhoods. Yes, this money that's coming from the federal government is going to be a huge help, and I'm excited about that. However, we have to have leaders who are invested in these neighborhoods. I'm a lifelong Daytonian. I still live in Northwest Dayton, and I look forward to working with the community.
Okay, thank you, Jared. Let's try to stick to time. I think President Ford said we have a lot of questions, so we want to get through them all. So a minute, 30 seconds, and we're going to cut you off. Scott Sliver. Turn your mic on, Scott.
I told myself I wasn't going to do that today, and I just did. Thank you for the question. I live in one of those neighborhoods. I don't live in a historic district. I don't live in an area that's been gentrified. I live at the corner of West 2nd Street in Euclid. My wife and I spend a great deal of time trying to instill pride in our neighborhood. I have a 48-inch deck mower that is it's a stand-on, has a sulky that you stand on, and I mow 3 vacant lots, and we are constantly picking up trash. That's my work ethic. When people in my neighborhood, especially kids, will ask why I do it or who's paying me to do it, I just tell them I want it to look good for you. I want you to be able to go in that lot and not be cut by a bottle, or I want you to be able to play kickball in a safe way. I have a background in advertising and marketing, and I really believe that that background can help attract more businesses that will invest in our neighborhoods. Certainly when this money comes down, the federal money comes down, every dollar needs to be allocated purposefully, and a great deal of that money needs to go into the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Shenise.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Roberts, for this question. So this is very dear to my heart. I have campaigned and advocated for our neighborhoods for a number of years. As a former City of Dayton employee, I know firsthand, and I can speak candidly about my experience in the Planning and Community Development Department. No one on this panel has the experience that I have, again, with managing the community and development dollars from the federal and state government. So I bring a new, unique perspective, and in that, this role does not call for on-the-job training. I know how to get the job done day one. And with that being said, we need a plan. We have to have a concrete plan to address the ills and the concerns of our neighborhoods, and we're not doing that. That plan needs to be engaging. It also needs to add to the input and the insight of our residents. We have to make sure that we reinstitute our priority boards to give our citizens a voice, to have them be a part of this plan. Not only do we need to have a plan, we need to have a means of implementing that plan. Implementation comes making sure that we have the resources to address those issues in our neighborhoods. All 65 neighborhoods are not the same. They have different needs. They have a different demographics in which they're serving. And so that calls for a plan that is going to address every neighborhood individually. We also need to look at the experience that comes along with who we're voting into office to make sure that these plans are executed. I'm bringing a Residents First program to make sure that our residents have the ability to seek affordable, decent, affordable housing. We need to make sure we have low interest loans and grants to encourage home ownership.
Thank you, Shenise. Thank you very much. Jordan Wortham. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Roberts, that's a great question. Glad you asked that. I think I had a unique experience as well. I'm born and raised in West Dayton. I worked as a police officer in 5th and 3rd District my entire career. Dayton loves me and I love Dayton. So trash is an issue. Home ownership is an issue. I want to encourage home ownership and investment. You need a foundation. So I want to make it easier for people to own, invest into a house in Dayton. I don't want to come with a heavy hand with the zoning board on inspections and make it more difficult to own a home. For example, the zoning board, they have 2 members that are expired. They're still on the board. That's an issue. People who own homes and businesses are being crushed arbitrarily by our zoning board. I want to encourage that vacant home to be owned. At least we have a foundation to grow upon. Second, safety. Police reform. If people don't feel safe, they're not going to want to live there. I work the streets. I live in every district I policed. So we have to increase a sense of safety. The current commission and mayor, they proclaim that the city's real safe. They're not. People are scared to leave their homes. People are scared to call the police for retaliation. So it's multi-layered. We need trash pickup. We need increased safety. We need to make it easier to own, invest into a home.
Thank you, Mr. Wortham. And this does fit under our game changes, economic development, and several others, but it's really under economic development. Mr. President, do we have another question from someone else?
Yes, Roland had a question. I don't know if he's available yet.
Okay. Trustee Winburn.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Let me ask you like a 1-minute question. A lot of work has gone into police reform, and at the state level, there's the collaborative, and certainly at the local level, there's been an effort. But really, police reform comes down to holding police officers accountable for what they do. And every day there's a roll call, and there you can tell what a police officer is like and what he or she is doing in the streets. As a commissioner, you have a pulpit that you can say something or do something about what's going on in the police department. When was the first or last time you spoke out against what the members of your body were thinking? In other words, have you ever spoken out against what the group is thinking, your colleagues are thinking, and made it an effort to stand affirmative on a position you stand for? Even though the other commissioners, the mayor may not go for the police, can you think of a time in your life or career when you spoke out against something that the rest of your colleagues have not been able to speak out against? And I'll go in reverse order, if that's okay, Mr. President. And Jordan, will go with you, and then we'll go reverse alphabetical order.
Yes, and before it speaks, I think basically, I just want to caveat for what VP Roberts was saying. To me, that's a person that's exercising true leadership. stepping outside the comfort zone. I'm gonna give you an example of something because we're in the public safety and criminal justice section. When the NAACP filed a lawsuit or filed a complaint against the sheriff's department in the text message, the racial text messaging case. We filed that complaint. As a result, 2 officers were fired, or 2 sheriff's deputies were fired. 3 were disciplined, and 1 was not disciplined. And all that was on a continuum scale as relates to the amount of engagement they had during the text message case. But where the leadership came in at, we conducted a 4-month investigation before we turned over to the police department or the sheriff's department. And we felt going into meeting with the sheriff at that time, which was Phil Plummer, we felt going in that he had no other alternative but to take swift and immediate action, which would ultimately go against the grain of policing. And that is to take action swiftly to terminate. And that he did. In fact, he did not seek re-election to his post. After that, he sought another post, which now he's state representative. But at least he did exercise leadership by terminating the employment of those sheriff's deputies and disciplining those other sheriff's deputies who were involved in that egregious act of racial text messaging. So he went against the grain. Every police officer, chief, sheriff probably wouldn't have done that. They probably would have protected their own. So that's what we're kind of focused on. What have you shown leadership that you went outside the box of your particular group that you can say that you exercise leadership?
How long do we have for this answer?
A minute 30, Jared, go ahead. Or Jordan, I'm sorry, Jordan. We're going to reverse alphabetical order.
Mr. Roberts, that's a great question. If you look me up in terms of state cases and complaints of discriminatory and racist, I have a lengthy history. I went against the grain going into the academy. I knew that there was deep-rooted racism within the Dayton Police Department. That's honestly why I couldn't work there anymore. But people want change. So what I'm going to do is make the police department better. Front-facing body cameras activated at all times. Exponentially increase minority recruitment from 33,000 north to 2 million. I want to change the game, change the paradigm. I want people to feel safer in their neighborhoods. The barriers, perceived barriers, I want to break down those walls. As a young Black man working in law enforcement, I have a unique perspective. My civil rights were violated by the Dayton Police Department. But I'm here to increase community police relations, to make the police better, to make their job safer, and to protect the citizen. You say that there's a lot of effort going to reform. Mr. Roberts, I disagree with you. There is not a lot of effort. It's a lot of paperwork. This doesn't mean anything if you're not in good faith. I can circumvent this. I cannot enforce this. There's no adherence to this. You can create whatever policy you want, but if you don't have genuine good faith people who want to hold each other to account, Mr. Roberts, policy doesn't mean anything. It's obsolete. So there's not a lot of work going to police reform, and I disagree with that.
Thank you. Shenise Turner Sloss.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Roberts. So that is a very interesting question that you pose. I think, for one, the work that I've done as one of the co-founders for Neighborhoods Over Politics, we have pressed the issue of having the conversation of the lack of resources and disinvestment that we've seen in our neighborhoods. Hence the reason why we're talking about it today, because of the work that we've done with Neighborhoods Over Politics. I also will add that we did extraordinary work during this past year with our COVID-19 relief assistance program, where we were able to provide individuals with rental and mortgage payment assistance. We also provided them with assistance for their cellular phone usage, because we know in this day and age, in the 21st century, a lot of people are conducting their day-to-day business on their cell phones. We also had the opportunity to partner with Mount Enon CDC to feed over 400 plus residents in Montgomery County. That's the type of work that I have been involved with. That's the kind of work that I'm continue to do. And I will also add this as well. The fact that I am running for Dayton City Commission for the third time speaks volume. It speaks that I am willing to go against the grain. I am willing to move and to push those issues forward, to say that the city of Dayton need intentional leadership that has the experience and the passion. Yes, this is my third time running for Dayton City Commission. I have the experience. And I will also add, with the police reform, my proposal is that we have an investigatory body. We have a citizens committee that will allow for us to look at the issues we're dealing with and building the community relations.
Thank you.
With the police.
Thank you, Shenise. Thank you very much. Scott Sliver.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. I could talk about this topic for a long time. I have 90 seconds, so here goes. First, I sat across from Chief Beal. I was in the room at one of our community police council meetings when a representative from Black Lives Matter asked a very simple, straightforward question. Who in this room is for de-escalation? Every hand went up except the chief's. And I was sitting across from him and I said, Chief, why aren't you raising your hand? And he started giving a nuanced answer to this. And I said, so you're for escalation? He said, well, of course I'm not. And I said, then you are for de-escalation. It's an emotional question. Why can't you just say yes? I've challenged him that way many times. In my police reform working group, did you know that a 14-year-old can currently, any minor under the age of 18 can waive their Miranda rights? Did you know that? And so one of the recommendations we made was to make that not possible. And the police in our group voted against that. Can you imagine your 14-year-old without a parent or guardian or attorney present, that they can waive their Miranda rights? And the police voted against this. And I looked at, I won't name the officer, but I said, I don't want you questioning my 14-year-old when I'm not there, or a guardian or an attorney is not there. Violating my kids' civil rights is not a tool for you to use. And in the most, I want to call just 30 more seconds, Tom, if I may. I was at a briefing 2 weeks ago.
I think you
This is
said time
important.
is up, Scott. We'll probably come back to closing arguments when you can
Okay. All right.
bring that point up.
I need 2 minutes on that one.
Okay, Jared Grandy. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, like Mr. Sliver, I could talk about this topic for hours, but it's an excellent question, Mr. Roberts. And as you may know, Mr. Roberts, I very publicly resigned from my position as the Community Police Relations Coordinator May 30th in the midst of the George Floyd protest. I can give you a million examples where I stood up to Chief Beal and where I came in conflict with city leadership. Because I was hired as a liaison between the community and the police, and I was hired as a facilitator of conversation. However, it became clear that the community needed more than a facilitator or an administrator. They needed an advocate, and then I decided to be an advocate. So that led me to speak up. I used my platform on social media to speak up. That resulted in discipline for me as an employee of the city. However, I continue to do what's right. And as your city commissioner, I will continue to do what's right, and I will continue to be a relentless advocate for the citizens, regardless of how my former commissioners or city leadership feels about it. I'm running to represent the people.
Thank you, Jared. Daryl Fairchild.
The answer to this is yes. There's examples. I have a track record of speaking up. I try to, you can't do that all the time, because then you lose your ability to make a profound endpoint. So I've tried to use it judiciously. I stood up against the shot spotters, so around police and criminal justice issues. I've spoken up. I spoke up recently around the budget. Again, voting no when the others voted yes. I voted up. I was stood up around New Prairie when I thought we weren't being as transparent as we needed to be. So I have a track record of doing it before I was on the commission and staying true to that when I've been on the commission. 2019 would be an example. We were talking around housing. Mr. Watenza came in to talk around the blight. I simply asked, could we take a fresh look at this with all our skills, brought up a substantial proposal, and the rest of the commission wouldn't go along with me. And so I advocated that point in that part as well.
Thank you, Daryl. Valerie Duncan.
This is this is a very, really important issue. And because of what's been going on nationwide, we need to really concentrate and get everybody, the city of Dayton needs to concentrate on this issue and get everybody to the table that's involved. So you have to have the citizens. Sure, have a committee, set up a committee, but let's get the people who we're talking about, the police, involved in the process. And we can start at the beginning. There's a lot of young men and women that are interested in joining our police force and joining our firefighters. I know that Belmont High School has like a pilot program in cooperation with the fire department. Now, the Belmont High School is right next door to the fire department, and then there's the police department next to them. We need to kind of be creative and start this, rhetoric is great, but if we really want to get down to the nitty gritty here, let's start creating projects for young people, like apprenticeship programs right through the high schools, like they had through Patterson Co-op, where they have the experience, like cadets. Create this type of opportunity for our young people from
Thank
all
you.
over the neighborhood.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Valerie. Stacy Benson Taylor.
Thank you. Great question. Many would say that I'm going against the grain since I have now left my job at the union to run for city commission. People may think that's strange, but I believe that I can advocate from a different perspective. And so that is going against the grain. Being a union rep and being a regional union rep in this climate where there are still a lot of white men that head the unions, that is going against the grain. Serving as the co-chair of the training committee during police reform, going against the grain, where I raised the question, why did SWAT police the George Floyd protest in full SWAT gear, but they stayed in the Union Hall during the Dave Chappelle concert after the mass shooting and didn't want to cause disruption? We're being policed different, and I don't have a problem raising those issues. I have always been in a position where I have had to go against the grain, whether it's with the city, whether it's with the county, or the other 55 public employers where I have represented employees. And so that is the path that I chose to go against the grain, and I will continue to do that as a city commissioner.
Thank you all. Thank you for your response. I'm going to take a 20-second personal privilege and just say, having served in General Assembly for 20 years, I'm going to tell you that legislation coming from the state is not going to be helpful to cities. They passed Stand Your Ground. Now they're looking at taking away individuals' rights to videotape police activity and saying it's interfering. It's going to take strong voices like each one of you mentioned to go against the grain when these legislative issues come to the cities. The shift has gone from the state house to the cities, and city commissioners and mayors have got to realize you've got to step in and make those decisions. Otherwise, you're going to be facing multi-million-dollar lawsuits and paying out like other cities have done. So, Mr. President, thank you for allowing me to ask these questions.
So I have a question related to this. And it's going to go back to yesterday's mayor's forum. The question came up, or a statement came up that said, from mayoral candidate Rennis Bowers, that he stated that that he did not feel in over his 30 years being a firefighter, that he did not witness and or feel that there was not implicit bias, but what was that, Richard Austin? He did not feel that there was
systemic racism.
Systemic racism. There we go. Systemic racism during his 30 plus years on the fire department. I want to know from each one of the candidates, based upon what you have witnessed, on what you have studied, on what you have heard, do you believe that there is systemic racism or has been systemic racism over the past 30 plus years in the fire department and the police department? Let's go with the police department first. Do you believe that there has been systemic racism over the past 30 years in the police department of the city of Dayton? And we'll just start with a former police officer, Jordan Wortham.
Yes, I think we all can agree to that. I respect Mr. Bowers' perspective, and we have to be open to other people's experience. We all have different experiences, but I think we all agree there's racism within not only the police department, the government. It's been that way since inception. So I want to focus on solutions. So an oversight committee board that the current commission doesn't want, the mayor doesn't want. I want you to be able to complain. If you have a grievance against the police department, I want to give you the ability to go to a true independent group that has the power to turn the decision. The current status quo is from the commission, you can complain to the police, and then you can appeal it back to the police. That's not a fair shake. And that's unconstitutional. The police department has way too much militarized equipment, and I can go on and on and on, but you get the point.
Okay, thank you. Daryl? So going back to Jordan, so you do feel or don't feel that there has been systemic racism in the police department? Just so we're clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Daryl?
This nation was founded on racism. Racism perpetuates itself as an evil system throughout. It's in our families, it's in our community, and it's in every institution. So of course it's in our police force and fire department. The question is, how do we create a place where every citizen in Dayton can come together to start fighting that racism? And so that's what I've worked on my whole life, as a young child into my career as a minister and as a commissioner. I'm within specific to the police reform work. We one of the marks of a competent police force would be, and an officer is to make sure that the force reflects the community. And so we were able to bring a recommendation forward that makes part of a professional development for an officer is one who's working for a police force that is staffed that looks like the community.
Okay, thank you. Shenise?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Do you believe that over the past 30 years that there has been systemic racism in the
Absolutely.
department and the Dayton Police Department?
Yes, absolutely. And I will say this with the understanding that I am not a former, nor do I serve as a police officer, but I will say that it exists only on the basis because that's the foundation, unfortunately, of which our country was built. Then I will also add too that the city of Dayton, again, as I noted earlier, is one of the most segregated cities in the country. There is a problem, and systemic racism is currently existing, and it has been existing, and therefore we need policy to reverse those years of discrimination and racism.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. personally, I don't think we need to distinguish between police and fire or anything else. Does systemic racism exist? Yes. I mean, obviously it does. And just because another candidate doesn't know what to look for or have a good understanding of what it is, doesn't mean it's not there. So we all know that it's real, that it's there, it's systemic. And that's one of the things that I've been passionate about calling people's attention to. So I'm a resounding yes, it's obvious that it exists.
Stacy?
Yes, systematic racism does exist, continues to exist, and we have to have the tough conversations. We have to we have to implement the policies and the practices to begin to dismantle this system. People have gotten so comfortable that people don't see it as an issue. It just is what it is, and that is not the case. It exists. We need to address it. We've worked on that with training. We worked on that to try and uncover this. And so that it isn't the norm for me to be stopped because I look differently than someone else. And when stops aren't happening the same, when investigation isn't happening the same, then we have to figure out how to get to the bottom of that. And so it absolutely exists, and our policies and our processes should be should be developed to address that.
Thank you. Jared?
You're on mute, Jared.
I should know better. I'm the youngest. Obviously, there's systemic racism within our Dayton Police Department. It's baked in to every institution in America, especially most of our law enforcement institutions. So there's no question that there's systemic racism baked into our Dayton Police Department. And it has been for a very long time. Matter of fact, in 2019, Thomas Rose, Judge Rose, who was a Republican appointee to the federal bench, ordered a dissent decree saying that we have systemic hiring practices that are discriminatory in the Dayton Police Department and the fire department. So it's been affirmed by the federal court that there's systemic racism. But that's why, to talk about solutions, that's why I say we need to reimagine public safety. Like I said, it's baked into our law enforcement institutions. So we're not going to piecemeal reform our way out of it. We have to reimagine the whole institution. We have to reimagine public safety so that we fight against this racism. And we need to implement policy that fights against systemic racism. And I'm looking forward to working with the citizens of Dayton to do that.
Thank you. Valerie?
Well, systemic racism, along with systemic sexism, has long existed way, way back, before the 18th century. So yes, we have systemic racism. What are we going to do about it? That's the question. So what has the city commission currently been doing about it? And the 4 years ago, and 8 years ago, 12 years ago, 18 years ago, 24 years ago, 28 years ago. Okay, so 30 years ago, what have we done to address this problem? So we really have to start working together. Diversity means different people from different backgrounds, ethnic, sexual backgrounds, working together, rolling up our sleeves and sincerely getting down to what's causing the problem. And that's what we have to do in Dayton. And we haven't done it. We need to really address it.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to transition over. So that was public safety. So we're going to transition over to health. A question came up yesterday, and from one of our local pastors who has been, you've seen him on TV, strong advocate for healthcare. This is one of our 21st century game changers, that's the NAACP. If elected, as we know, the field is going to be cut down from 7 to 4 in May. If elected, what will you specifically do, and I need 30 seconds, to bring a hospital to West Dayton proper, or some type of medical facility? So, even though it may not be a hospital, but it could be one of those emergency room shelters, not emergency room, but the smaller hospitals that they're putting up, like in Vandalia, Miller Lane, or like in Austin Landing. There's like I forget exactly what you call those little sites, but I think you all know what I'm talking about. So what would you specifically do to ensure, will you be committed? I think his question was, will you be committed to bringing a hospital and or some kind of healthcare facility to Dayton, west side of Dayton proper? That was the question. So let's go to Jared.
Simple answer, absolutely. I would be an advocate for our citizens. I watched that forum yesterday, and I was disappointed about how some of the candidates skated around the issue. There's no question about it. As a city commissioner, I use my platform to be an advocate, and I'll also negotiate with Cleveland Clinic or any other healthcare company who wants to come in the city of Dayton and make that deal happen. We need to hold Premier accountable. We need to work with Premier to maybe get rid of that non-compete agreement that's currently on that particular land where Good Samaritan set. But we need to be way more creative and way more aggressive about getting our residents of the west side of the hospital.
Thank you. Valerie.
Well, I think it's needed. We have the demand is there. Just like we have had demand, they Premier and Kettering has located hospitals or clinics north of town, south of town, east of town, and they need to make a commitment to the west side of the town. So the need is there. We just have to then, as city commissioners, as leaders, we have to identify the leaders within the city, within the region, to make a commitment of Kettering or Premier to establish a hospital or a major clinic in the west side. And that would be the responsibility of the county commissioners and the city commissioners to do so.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to first start by saying I understand the difficulty of a single mom or perhaps a senior citizen who can't just jump in a car. They may not have that ability to get in a car and drive, to one of the other facilities. I'm very sensitive to that. I live on the west side of Dayton. We all feel these losses, whether it's a big hospital or a grocery store like Aldi's. I think it's going to take some creativity to come up with solutions. Nobody's just going to arm twist a medical facility to coming over here. I think it's going to take people, leaders who can inspire them to do so. It's going to take connecting with philanthropists, with those who have the money to actually be able to pull this off. There are people in our community. Dayton has the highest charitable giving per capita in the state of Ohio. There's plenty of money when people want to loosen their purse strings to make something like this happen. That would be my desire, to seek them out and inspire them to act on behalf of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan?
Eric, what I'd like to focus on, and I'll keep rehashing the same point, I want to eliminate bureaucratic red tape. There's too many ordinances and laws that handlock, that keeps clinics and urgent cares coming to Dayton. So I'd contact Premier Health and Kettering day one I'm elected. What can we do to get you to Dayton? Jared mentioned it, Cleveland. I called all over the state of Ohio. I'm a big believer in clinics. There's a lot of investors, philanthropists who want to open up a clinic. Clinics are efficient. They can help low income, middle income people like myself. Urgent cares, I'm a big believer in urgent cares. We need more, but we have to make it where it's not coming down to all this bureaucratic red tape of attorneys and liability. So I want to be creative in looking at those ordinances and laws that's keeping clinics from coming to West Dayton.
Okay, Daryl?
Thank you. As many people know, I'm the manager of chaplain services at Dayton Children's Hospital, so I'm involved in healthcare. The reality is healthcare is an industry is changing in incredible ways. And this pandemic has even sped up in terms of making telemedicine more available. One of the things that we can do as a city is to work to make sure that we have closed that digital divide, because what we're finding is families don't have access to healthcare in this moment because they don't have access to good broadband. I don't think the city is an obstacle to healthcares and clinics coming. They're industry driven, and the changes are going to be for more disruption in the service and less hospitals. It's going to be more around these minute clinics in every facility. I think we need to look at a partnership with our health providers in Dayton. I think over at the new library in West Dayton to put some kind of urgent care minute clinic, some kind of access right in a spot that people are going to be going to already would be a smart move. And we can help do that. But we're really talking about wellness, and the hospital only, I think it's like 15% impact on people's health. The other 85 is in terms of their, the social determinants of health. And that's where we got to look at the things the city can do, which is improve the housing quality, work with, there's a movement over at Nationwide that we need to replicate, where the Children's Hospital is working to create safe housing for families and affordable, safe housing. That could be a significant improvement in our community around health. And if we look at infant mortality, African-American women are experiencing loss of their children at twice as many as white women. And as you drill down into that data, education and income can't make a difference. It comes down to race. And so going back to our previous question, working on issues of race that helps us see the evil that it is, help bring everyone on ball in the city together to work to alleviate that and eliminate it, so that we have healthier families across the city would be a big step.
All right, thank you. And remember, the question is, will you be committed to bringing a healthcare provider to the west side of Dayton? So that's really the question, Mr. Fairchild. Did you say yes or no on that?
Yes, but again, I think we give people a false understanding if we think that the city commission has the power or the tools to do that. The reality is we're very limited with those tools, and I think we need to be clear about the ways that we can and can't do that.
Okay. And it came up yesterday that it's a tool of negotiations that you give to the departments within the city that is their jobs to bring forth fruit like that. Shenise, Ms. Turner Sloss?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So let me just share with everyone that I was on the front line with the Clergy Coalition advocating for the need of Good Samaritan Hospital to stay in this location, and to also advocate the need for a hospital in Northwest Dayton. So absolutely, on day one, I'm having a conversation in partnership with the Clergy Coalition, calling up the Cleveland Health Clinic as well as Kettering Health Network to figure out a means and a way to provide health care to the residents in Northwest Dayton. I also will add this. These unprecedented times have shown us and have really provided and given us evidence of the challenges of the pandemic that have disproportionately affected and grappled the Black community. Therefore, there is a need, and we need people that are willing to go against the grain and to have those conversations to push to make sure that we have healthcare facilities in the northwest side of Dayton. And I'm that candidate that would do that. I've shown that with my past experience. Again, I was one of those individuals that met at Omega Baptist Church on Emerson and Salem Avenue to give my testimony on why there is a need and the importance of having a healthcare facility in Northwest Dayton.
Thank you. Ms. Benson Taylor?
Yes. COVID, it definitely has exposed, one of the things that was not a surprise to our community was the national doctors and everyone stating that this is disproportionately affecting African Americans. That's something that we already knew in our community, which is why I too was advocating as soon as that information came out that the hospital was leaving. I would definitely support trying to figure out what that looks like. Most of these hospital networks are going to these community hospitals. Well, we are a community, a very large community. And so when you look at these community hospitals in Inglewood, in Vandalia, and in these suburbs, we should have that same type of facility. May not be a major network. To have somebody like Cleveland or someone else want to come into the city, we absolutely have to do whatever we can. And I would be committed to whether it's working with community and economic development, working with the other community groups, working with our social organizations, trying to figure out what that looks like. I'm absolutely committed to that because we cannot thrive when we don't have good quality access to healthcare, and as well as good quality benefits to be able to utilize that healthcare. And so it is another system where we have come up short. And so I would be advocating for us to gain some ground in this healthcare system, which seems to disproportionately treat us negatively.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your answers, candidates, because we're coming around the home stretch here. So from an educational standpoint, we are at a crossroads in education. And our youth deserve better. And what better way to provide educational opportunities for our youth than to deal with the funding issue that's been on the table for so many years. Too many years to name that the school funding, the inequities of school funding has been an issue. So in 1 minute, what can you use if elected? How are you going to use your influence as a city commissioner to eradicate this inequitable system of school funding? And let's start with Valerie.
Okay, thank you. Well, there has already been all sorts of lawsuits against the state of Ohio. They've already determined that the way we fund schools is unconstitutional. I think it's been 11 years ago, probably more than that. But the state of Ohio has not done anything about that. Property tax is one of the main sources of revenue that the schools depend on for funding. And there's all sorts of ballot issues on the primary ballot. Different school systems are asking for an increase in the school levies. But this is a disproportional way of funding our schools. It's already been gone through the mill way long ago, but it's going to take leadership from the city commission, from the county commission. We all have to come together and get this reform done.
Thank you. Mr. Wortham.
Yes, I would have to re-examine these tax abatements in terms of how they affect how much money our schools are getting. And Ms. Duncan made a good point, the property tax. So what I want to do is increase population growth through home ownership. The more property taxes we get, the more funding goes to our schools. Just simple solutions such as a basketball court with a net. Kids can go out and play basketball. It can keep them from having idle time with committing crime. The current commission and mayor, they've closed down every recreational center, Northwest Center, Linden Center. These kids have nothing to do. And it's almost an intended effort from our government for them to just participate in idle things or crime, and then it's monetized. So I want to focus on the youth in terms of sports, in terms of property taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Fairchild.
So I think Second Vice President Robert said it well. The state legislature has not been supportive of cities like Dayton. And this would be one example where they have failed us. So I think, you know, quite frankly, the places that we have to impact that the most is to make sure these next round of maps are drawn fairly in the reapportioning work. And so that's something that an elected official can speak up and try to lead and try to influence. And then when that state legislature is sat, to continue to work to lobby and advocate for them. But separately, we have a responsibility to our young people, and we have not done well by them. You know, some people look at the 4.3 million that we spend on preschool promise and say that's sufficient. I think that's only a start. I think we need to do better. The citizens have asked for funding for our young people. Our current budget doesn't include it. That was one of the reasons that I voted no on the current budget. And
Ms. Turner Sloss.
Yes, thank you for the question. So I think that it's important that you're absolutely correct in stating that it was mentioned the property taxes is one of the main sources that we're dealing with in terms of how we're funding our schools. So the approach that I'm looking at is that we have to look at this issue holistically. That being said, we cannot continue to work with our school district only to continue our political ploys or for our efforts of cronyism. We need to make sure that we're working authentically with our school district to make sure that our students have what they need to be successful. And how do we do that? It starts with investing in our neighborhoods. We've gotten away from investing in our people. We've gotten away from investing in our neighborhoods. We need to make sure that we're retaining and attracting our talent to stay in the city of Dayton. And as a product of Dayton Public Schools, I know firsthand we have the ability to do just that, but we have to work in partnership with our school district. That means having a conversation, figuring out means and ways that we attract people in the city of Dayton, creating those pipelines for our students once they come out of high school, if they choose to go into a trade, or if they desire to get a job at the Air Force Base, we have those pipelines in place.
All right, thank you. Mr. Grandy.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. It's clear that we've failed our young people. Take a look at our budget. Our budget reflects our values. Take a look at our budget. You will see that we invest a fraction in our young people than we do compared with our Dayton Police Department, right? We need to realign and reevaluate our values, and our budget needs to reflect those values. We're limited in what we can do as a city commission to address the educational issues and to petition the State House to create a more fair and equitable policy with regard to how we fund our schools. But we do have a platform, and we need to use that platform to be vocal on behalf of our young people. I think we failed to do that thus far. And as a city commissioner, I promise you that I will be a vocal advocate and a vocal fighter on behalf of our young people in the city of Dayton.
Thank you. Ms. Benson Taylor. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Thank you. One of the first things that we have to do is continue the retreats that the City Commission has with the Dayton School Board. Even though the City Commission has no authority to dictate what the school board does, that communication and that conversation helps us figure out how we move education forward and as it relates to building our city. The other thing that we have to do as advocates, we have to lobby the State House. We have mandated services that are statutorily required to provide as a city. And then we have other things that we do for to serve our citizens. And so we have to lobby the state. They've taken away at this stage in the game 50% of the local government fund, which tries to tie our hands. So we have to advocate for those maps to be drawn appropriately so that we have representation at the State House. And then we have to work with organizations like the NAACP and other social justice organizations who have these same goals of making sure that our children are educated, to put pressure on the State House to hey, whether it's a boycott, whatever it is, we have to advocate in that manner.
Thank you. Mr. Sliver.
Well, certainly in addition to, lobbying to fix the big mess that nobody's been able to seem to fix, and obviously working alongside, there's a very close relationship between the city and the schools, even though they have their own separate board. By nature, I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy. I've been a mentor in Dayton Public Schools for the past 5 years. Anything we can do to help our kids be reading at grade level by 3rd grade, it keeps them out of the criminal justice system. Statistics prove that. We have I think it's about a 70% graduation rate. So that means we have several hundred kids every year not graduating from school and not having access to good paying jobs, not having access to healthy foods, not having access to all of that you know about. I think, that we need to help. We just need to do anything that we can with any group that we can to give our kids the best possible shot. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, here's a question from, so here's how we're going to conclude. We're at 12:46. The forum was scheduled from 10 to 1. And once again, we appreciate your time. But I'm going to ask a question. Then we're going to go to from our Economic Development Committee. And then I'm going to ask that question. Please be as precise as you can, short and concise with the question, with the answer. Then we're going to go to Chairman Roberts to ask a question regarding voting rights and political representation. And then we're going to go into wrap up. And in your wrap up, your closing speech, I wanted to deal with part of your closing speech. I wanted to deal with how are you going to expand youth and young adult engagement? How do you plan to expand? Because I heard each one of you talk about recreational parks and talking about schooling. How can you, within your closing remarks, expand youth and young adult engagement? So the question for economic sustainability, it says, for the economy to grow and living standards to rise, it is crucial to have a successful policy at all levels of government. State and local governments make key investment decisions about infrastructure, education, housing, transportation, land use, and many other areas that help determine the long-run capacity of the local economy. What policies do you champion? What policies would you consider to propose during your tenure as city commissioners? So what policies would you champion, and what policies would you consider to propose during your tenure as city commissioner if elected?
Regarding what again specifically, Mr. President?
It says, in order for the economy to grow and living standards to rise, it is crucial to have successful policies at all levels of government. So your level of government is municipality, is municipals, local. State and local governments make key investments decisions about infrastructure, education, housing, transportation, land use, and many other areas that help determine the long-run capacity of the local economy. So what policies do you champion from an economic standpoint, and what policies would you consider to propose during your tenure as city commissioner if elected from an economic standpoint? So let's go with Valerie, Ms. Duncan, and then Mr. Wortham.
Okay, if I understand the question, is you're talking about economic development. What can the city commission do as it relates to economic development? Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
What will you do?
Okay. Right. Well, there's so many things that the city of Dayton City commissioners can do. And I don't know why they haven't done it, but economic development, there's so many opportunities for our the people that are providing that have businesses and are trying to distribute their services to the people along 7570. Now we're going to e-commerce, right? Our Fairfield Commons Mall, the Dayton Mall is close to bankruptcy. People are not going physically shopping to the malls, to the stores. They're e-commerce. So we have to be creative, in our approach towards economic development now. We have to think outside the box. We have to get a handle on all this new technology that people are using every day for shopping and to order things and just distributing our resources.
Mr. Grandy?
Yeah, certainly, I think there is an abundance of things that we can do to address the issues that you brought up. One of those things is we need to get creative about our policy, and one ordinance that we can push is a wage theft ordinance. There are companies who steal dollars out the pockets of Dayton residents through having them work off the clock. We have a few day labor agencies who have unfair wage practices, and we need to hold those people accountable. So we need to economically empower our residents through our ordinances. And another thing is we need to stand with our workers, and we need to stand with people who want to unionize and create safer working conditions for themselves. There are a number of shops within our region who could benefit from strong collective bargaining unions. And I would be as your commissioner, I would be a strong advocate for you, and I will fight with you. And again, I look forward to working with you all on these issues.
Thank you. Mr. Sliver?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, that's a pretty broad question. We have to address policies regarding education. We've talked about healthcare, economic development, attracting businesses that will invest in our community, not just downtown, but certainly in the neighborhoods. We need to make sure that our kids graduate so that they can have access to jobs that pay a living wage. I'm very fortunate to have received the endorsement of the AFL-CIO because I have made the commitment to fight for businesses. I have a background in business. I had 15-year career in advertising and marketing, so I know how to attract businesses and how to fight for workers. So I think it's a broad group of policies that are all important. We all know that. They all feed together to make sure that our citizens are able to live their best life. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Turner Sloss?
Yes, thank you for that question. So our businesses represent the heart of our economic security with every community, and as a significant indicator, our city's economic well-being. So as commissioner, what I am proposing is my Cut the Tape program that will eliminate the barriers and restructuring policy that will give business and institutions and stakeholders the ability to transform policies that will benefit entrepreneurs, small business development, and long-term planning. I also will add that as a union member myself of AFGE, I know firsthand the importance of strong collective bargaining. And so therefore, I will be a strong advocate for making sure that we are addressing our economic needs by encouraging small business growth in the city of Dayton. And how do we do that? We make Dayton attractive. We have the resources. We talked about the fact that we're located where a major interstate lies. We also have a major resource, and that is our water.
Thank you. Mr. Fairchild?
Well, I think we have a great opportunity again to highlight the $147 million that's coming into this community. The city manager has already identified that one initiative she wants to do, and I think is right, is to look at our small businesses, our minority-owned businesses, and see what technical assistances we can do, what other incentives that we can put in place to encourage new folks to start businesses. So I think that's right. And I think it goes along with the arcade. When we built the arcade and invested in the arcade, we made a promise that we would extend that hub of entrepreneurship out into the neighborhoods. And so we need to hold me and the commission accountable to doing that. And finally, I think we need two other pieces. One is we need to look at our business corridors in our neighborhoods and how can we put the infrastructure in there to make those attractive places to bring workers. And then one of the key things to attracting any business, whether it's in the neighborhood or in the downtown or in the region, is having a strong workforce. And so it goes back to our previous question about what we can do with our young people and our education. And so investing in our young people so that they're we have a strong workforce.
All right, thank you. Did we already hear from Mr. Wortham? Okay, Mr. Wortham.
No, that's a great question. What I want to do is make the city more business friendly. I'm a businessman, I understand business, and I think we need more business-minded people to get into the commission. We have entrepreneurs that come to Dayton, and they have this big burdensome of laws, inspection codes, and they're spending time focusing on adherence versus making money. So I believe in empowerment zones. The current mayor is only interested in downtown Dayton being an empowerment zone. I think we can have a lot of empowerment zones in West Dayton. Not only in West Dayton, there's East Dayton, they're failed north as well. So I want to champion fairness. I want to re-examine the zoning board appeals process. I can't have countless numerous of friends that went to the zoning board and their businesses were destroyed, shut down arbitrarily from the zoning board with no explanation. There needs to be a policy, there needs to be structure and transparency on the zoning board appeals process. I don't want to pick winners and losers, and I want to lower taxes because the people know how to spend their money better than the government.
Thank you. And Ms. Benson Taylor.
Thank you. I have spent my career advocating, or part of my career advocating for working families and advocating for workers' rights. As a member of the AFL-CIO Executive Board, who's also now been endorsed by the AFL-CIO Executive Board, it is because I believe in strengthening working families and workers. And that is all levels. You know, the AFL-CIO has created this pre-apprenticeship program. Why? Because people who look like us are not in the trades. And so we have this program. I teach in that program because I believe in that program. I want to fill this city with people who are looking and thinking outside of the box. We also have to, in not just strengthening the people who want to work in a factory environment or a business, but we have to support our small business owners, our entrepreneurs. And so I talked about it earlier, building our communities from the inside out, and building small businesses. And so taking some of that money, investing that into our small businesses, as Commissioner said, that was one of Shelley's plans, so important, helping people understand that large businesses are attracted to places where they can clearly identify spending and buying power. We struggle in our community because we don't have when a company wants to come, they put a dot and they say, oh, they're not spending money. We know our buying power. We just don't have the places here to spend. And so we're going outside of our communities. Well, what we need to do is be building from the inside out, creating those businesses. And then we start to show we absolutely have buying power, and that helps build our economy.
Thank you, candidates. We're almost there. We got 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So coming around the mountain, here we come. So from a voting rights and political representation standpoint, I just want to ask this quick question. Well, it looks like Chairman Roberts has turned his mic off, so I'll let him ask. I wasn't going to ask a question, but I'll let him go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I want to make a statement, but go ahead and ask the question.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I would like to encourage each one of you, because each one of you have your own bully pulpit, your platform, redistricting and reapportionment are extremely important to this community. And that will happen late because the census data won't get there until late September. You need to advocate, use whatever bully pulpit you have to push the legislatures to write fair legislative districts, reapportionment, state districts. I think we may have a good congressional district, but the state house is gerrymandered to death. I need to encourage you to use whatever pulpit you have to encourage the legislature to draw fair state representatives, state senators districts, because that's going to make a difference in how you're going to be able to do your job as city commissioners. I'll see some of you in September and at the candidates forum the NAACP does every year. Mr. President, I yield to you for the last few minutes here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, and this should be a simple yes or no answer regarding voting rights and political representation. Will you do everything in your power, in your leadership abilities? As we see all across this great country called the USA, we see voter suppression laws going up everywhere. All the different states, not all the states, but a lot of states. Will you do everything in your power to protect the vote? Very simple yes or no answer. Jared Grandy.
Yes, yes, absolutely yes.
Ms. Duncan.
Yes, starting with our school system, we have to educate our young people about the importance of voting and being a good citizen.
Ms. Benson Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Sliver.
Yes, what's happening in Georgia right now, or just happened, is a crime.
Ms. Turner Sloss.
Yes, as a member of Delta Sigma Theta, those are one of our founding reasons on why we exist. And as a member of the NAACP, absolutely yes.
Mr. Fairchild.
I have and I will, so definitely yes. I was glad to stand with the NAACP state when we got the early voting and weekend hours being one of the named members in that complaint and settlement.
And Mr. Wortham.
Absolutely, yes. As a former police officer, we see people's constitutional rights being trampled upon unbelievably. And this, I'm so glad Mr. Roberts brought this up. So absolutely, yes.
Thank you. All right, in closing remarks, we want to give you opportunity to give your closing impact statement. And we'll yield to 1 minute because it's 1:02. So that's going to get us to about 1:11, which means that we'd probably be about 11 or 12 minutes over time. So I want to give you 1 minute to give you your closing impact statement of why the candidates should vote for you, starting with early voting on Tuesday, April the 6th. And to include in that 1 minute, what will you do for the youth? So hopefully you can encompass that inside your 1 minute. Ms. Duncan.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, we can tie everything together. We can tie diversity, jobs, improving our housing structure, young people getting educated, different programs so that they're ready to go into a job. Patterson Co-op did that. We need to do that on a large scale. In order to grow our small businesses, we have to grow our large businesses. Just like downtown Dayton, Elder Beerman and Reich's, now Lazarus, now Macy's, was the anchor. It drew all those restaurants and small businesses downtown. So we have to do that all over again. So those are all the things. We have to connect all the parts, the jobs, the union, the diversity, the training, all together.
Thank you. Mr. Wortham.
Yes, you should vote for me because of my background. It's unique, law enforcement. I'm a businessman. I'm a successful businessman. We need successful businessmen and women in office that know and understand growth, revenue growth. I'm a former police officer. I know you don't feel safe in your community. Neither do I. I know how to make it safe. I know how to get the job done. I'm the only candidate. I'm not going to be dictated. I'm not going to answer to a party. I'm the only candidate on this panel not answering to no party. I stand on my principle. I'm unafraid. I'm unbossed, and I stand on my principle at all costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grandy.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Thank you, NAACP, for giving us this opportunity to talk about our platform, to talk about our candidacy. I'll start with your first question, or your question about the youth. We talked a lot about the money coming in from the federal government. We need to absolutely invest that in our young people. Our youth and rec services budget is abysmal. We need to increase that budget. We need to use money to invest in young people. And as a community member, I have a good track record working with young people and building relationships with young people, and I'll continue to do so as your city commissioner. I have a large platform. Please visit jaredfordayton.com to learn more about my platform. We talked a lot today about standing up and speaking truth to power. I have a long history of doing that. Please read my Medium article, as well as Dayton Daily News articles and articles in the Dayton Weekly that would tell you about my track record and my history and my ability to stand up and speak truth to power and be an advocate for the people. I'm going to operate as in the collective impact model, meaning that I'm bringing you all to the table. Thank you. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sliver.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Roberts, and to the NAACP. This has been a great forum. I appreciate the opportunity. The question in our closing is about youth and young adults. I've raised 4 kids into young adulthood that are all flourishing. My 2 sons helped to create what you all know as Dayton Inspires. My youngest son, Zach, got the mural put up on the side of Blind Bob's that was to honor the victims of the mass shooting. I believe that it's my job to make my ceiling the next generation's floor. I love working with young people. I've been a mentor at Dayton Public Schools. I'm speaking at Dayton Leadership Academy this coming Friday. As your city commissioner, I will continue to fight hunger. Nobody brings to the table what I do in terms of fighting food deserts. I will broaden that. I will work to improve opportunities for children and families in terms of education and economic development with my background in advertising, marketing, and business. And I think our city could do a better job with communicating about the budget, about opportunities, about what's not working well and what is working well. And I will bring that to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schleifer. Ms. Turner Sloss.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ford, for the opportunity this morning into the afternoon. I also want to thank the entire NAACP. Listen, our campaign is about achieving authority rather than about gaining power. The people in this community, they have the power. As commissioner, you're going to give me the authority to govern for all the best interests of all 65 neighborhoods in the city of Dayton. And so what I'm going to do and how I'm going to invest in our youth, we have $147 million coming into the city of Dayton. We need to make sure that those funds are allocated to our Department of Youth and Recreation Services. I'm also going to reinstitute the priority boards and how we're going to make sure that we're able to move forward in the 21st century. We're going to have a youth component, a part of our new institution of the priority boards that's going to intimately get our youth involved in the civic and engagement process so they can learn about how the citizens' participation in the priority boards was once a model that was governed, that was viewed by others across the country. I also will add this. Please visit my website, shenisefordayton.com. Call me, 937-701-7137. Let's talk about it. I am your next Dayton City Commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Fairchild.
Thank you, President Forward, the NAACP, and fellow candidates for this opportunity to share our ideas. I ask for your vote for re-election because I think over the last 3 years, I've demonstrated that I'm a responsible and responsive leader who has made a significant impact in our city. To our youth question, I think funding is a question, but we need to be clear and focus on the question of this $147 million coming in. That's only one-time dollars, and it will impact going forward. So we have to be very smart in how we use that for programming. And it goes to to Senator Roberts' point. These redistricting cannot be. No one can express how important this is, because the other issue that we haven't talked about that is going to significantly impact the city is this debate they're having now about the commuter tax. And if they change how we fund our cities, this city could be facing significant reduction in revenue to the place where we wouldn't be able to bring basic services. So I ask for your reelection. I ask for your vote in this special primary. I'm Daryl Fairchild. I'm running for reelection. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Benson Taylor.
Thank you, President Dr. Forward, the entire board and NAACP membership, as well as President Tom Roberts. I would just like to wrap up by saying there are a lot of people, again, in this race that are passionate. We all love the city of Dayton, but it's the passion plus the experience. And I bring the experience to the table that equals progress. My platform involves improving communication. We need to make sure that everybody knows and understands how the city works and what that looks like. Until we start to empower people and help educate them, it is very difficult to help people move in the direction that they need to go. So we need to improve communication. The other thing that we need to do is continue our police reform. We need to make sure and follow up that all of the recommendations, the training committee, we have submitted 45 recommendations, 35 of them have been approved, 10 are waiting, and the other committees have submitted recommendations. And so we need to make sure that we are following up with those. I'm also the candidate that has helped balance the budget, maintain staffing levels, and maintain vital services. That behind the scenes work is exactly what you need in your next Dayton City Commissioner, Stacy Benson Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. So citizens, there you have heard it. 3 hours of impactful testimony for each particular candidate who is seeking the job of Dayton City Commissioner. So you have an opportunity now to look at and replay this video, to see what the candidates are saying prior to early voting starting next Tuesday, April the 6th. So we encourage you, the citizens, to vote your conscience and know that you want somebody, the NAACP wants somebody who espouses leadership skills and abilities that will help move our city forward. Yes, there's a lot of great things going on today. There's a lot of programs. The Dayton Arcade is looking good. I haven't been down there yet, but I've seen the shots on TV. But so there's some progress being made, no doubt. But we can be better, and that's all we want is better and more opportunities. So until the next time, until the month of September, when we have our candidates forum for all of the two last mayoral candidates that will be on the ballot and the 4 city commission candidates that will be on the ballot, we say we wish all of you well. All of you candidates right now, you city commission candidates, wish all of you well for your election on the special election in May. So until then, may God bless you, may God bless the NAACP, and may God bless these United States of America. Peace and power, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
God bless all of you and be safe.
Thank you.
And once again, thank you, candidates.